Good morning. We're going to light the candle. We light this candle as a visual reminder of the light and warmth of God's love that brings us together and surrounds us today. Next, we're going to join in our land acknowledgement, but just before we read this together, I just want to, draw our attention to the part of our land acknowledgement that talks about acting beyond words. And I'm wondering if maybe there's any young people here today that know what is happening on Monday. Is something different happening at your school on Monday? Does anyone know what Monday is? I can see that some people here today are dressed for it. Zevin, do you know? Orange Shirt Day, absolutely, thank you. It's Orange Shirt Day, or the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And so as we read our land acknowledgement together today, just remember that there are many opportunities surrounding the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation to learn and to engage with Indigenous communities. And it's really important that we do those kinds of things to show that our land acknowledgement is a living act of reconciliation. So let's read it together. We acknowledge that we are on the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Attawandaron peoples. We are on the treaty lands of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation. We lament the historic and ongoing injustices that First Nations people have endured. We deeply respect the many generations of people who have cared for this land and their spiritualities, teachings, and ways of knowing. We seek to listen with humility, pray for reconciliation, and act beyond words.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to everyone who is here with us at Harcourt. If you're joining us online, welcome. What you might not know is that everyone in the sanctuary has a cookie in front of them today, which I'm sure is really new, to have a cookie in front of you when you arrive at church. And I'm thankful for all of you who have come together today to try something new, so welcome. I want to extend a special welcome to some guests who are here with us today. We are going to get to know them better throughout this service, but I'll introduce you to Ever Martinez Hernandez, right there. Ever's here with us from El Salvador, from the Association of Social and Economic Development, or ADES. ADES is a partner organization to the United Church, and Ever has been here in Ontario for just over a week as part of an international solidarity tour. And we're very excited to learn from Ever today and at our Lunch and Learn. And we also have Olivia here with her family. Olivia will be doing some translation for us and for Ever, so thank you so much and welcome. I have a few announcements. Next week for Manna, we are going to be gathering on a Saturday instead of a Sunday, doing something that we've been doing for the last few years, and that is going to pick carrots. We've been picking carrots and harvesting for the Good Food Project for a few years now. We will be gathering from 1 to 4 at Bella Farms, and if you're interested in coming, we hope you'll come out. You can bring a chair. There's lots of jobs for people who would like to sit and take off carrot tops if you don't feel like harvesting. And we also want you to know the tractor comes through and loosens all the soil. So it's actually pretty easy and fun. Hands up if you've picked carrots before with Manna. So that's next week. And we just remind you to sign up because Bella Farms wants to make sure they have enough snack for us. So if you haven't signed up, that's your reminder. We also want to let you know that Discovery Day is coming up in a few weeks. Hands up if you've been to a Discovery Day before. We've only had one so far. Discovery is a time for us to come together as a community, to fill our spirits, to get to know one another better, and to have some fun and to find what each of us need in that day. We're going to be at the Martin Community Center, which is really close to Guelph. There's lots of choices in workshops, along with the choice to go walking along the trail or the pond, or to play in the park. We're going to have great food and a great day away together. We'd ask you to register by October 6th, again, so we make sure we have enough lasagna for everyone. So there's your reminder to sign up. The registration is in the e-weekly, or you can come to the office. And finally, today, after our service, there is a lot happening. Right after our service, there's coffee and lemonade available up in the chapel. So you're welcome to come and have some time at the Harcourt Cafe. At noon, back here in the sanctuary, we are having lunch, and then at 12:30, Ever is going to do a presentation for us from 12:30 to 1:30. So we hope to see you there. Now I'm going to invite Zoel and Antonio up, and they're going to help us with some actions for our first song, Peace Like a River. I think we're all warmed up now, yes? Okay. So Manna has been celebrating the season of creation this month, and we've been noticing that God created us to be deeply interconnected with all of the life around us. We've been talking about how we're woven together with tiny, tiny things. And you need to know our Manna kids are amazing scientists, so here are some of the tiny things they notice that we need to live. Microbes, plankton, oxygen, and then they went into some quantum mechanics and stuff, and I got a bit lost. And we've also noticed our lives are interconnected with things that are huge, and they named things like the sun and our atmosphere, the oceans, and our universe. We were created by God to live in relationship with creation, to be interdependent, not dominant, to be protectors, not consumers. So today we're exploring how Canada and El Salvador are connected by water and how we can support one another to protect the water. Will you join me in prayer? Creating God, you created a universe woven together by your love. When we sit by our favorite river or lake, we can feel your presence. When we listen deeply to one another, we notice you there. Open our hearts to notice you here today, in the quiet and in the singing, in our learning and sharing. Show us the way to live with respect for creation and towards your dream for a just world for all. Amen. And I invite you to join us in our manna breath prayer. When I say, with this breath we give thanks, we invite you to take a deep breath. And we often do this gesture like this, take a deep breath and come down. And I invite you to be the all. With this breath we give thanks for the gifts of this beautiful day. With this breath we give thanks for the gift of our body and the life and health we enjoy at this moment. With this breath we give thanks for the gift of community, friends and family, both near and far. With this breath we give thanks for the gift of covenant with the Indigenous peoples in this territory, the care and the sharing of this place where we live. With this breath we give thanks for the gift of the ancient earth, for the soil, seas, and skies, and all that lives and moves upon them. With this breath we give thanks for the gift of spirit that gathers us together and connects us in this web of life. With this breath we give thanks for the gift of water and for all those who protect it. With the breaths that follow now, may we be present to one another. This is our prayer. And let's sing together. I notice that you have all been sitting and no one has touched their cookie. Way to go, that's awesome. But now it's about to be time. We are going to invite you to imagine that the cookie in front of you is a place, a piece of land. And if it's a piece of land, what do you guess the blue icing running through the middle might be? Nella, say it louder. Water. Yes, a river. Now, chocolate chips have recently been found to be very valuable. And a mining company has purchased a permit from the government to mine the chocolate chips on your cookie. You are the mining company. So, here's what we're going to do. To mine your chocolate chips, you can only use the tools that you've been given, which is a paper clip, and there's some toothpicks if you prefer. So what you can't do is use your fingers, okay? That's number one. If you get a whole or a half chocolate chip, put it over in a pile. Those are your exceptionally mined chocolate, and people will purchase them. Well done, mining company. If you get anything smaller than a half, you just leave it where it lies, okay? And let's see, what else here? You have 5 minutes. Now, if you are joining us from home, you could go find a chocolate chip cookie and a toothpick if you have one. And we're going to tell you all about how this activity went in 5 minutes when all of the mining folks have finished their excavations. Are you ready? Now, before you start, I need to emphasize, because our MANA kids, and even me, we don't like to compete. There's a lot of us who don't like competition. Hands up if you don't like competition. What I want to tell you is that this is not a competition. We're not going to see how many chocolate chips you got. The challenge is to mine, and then we're going to talk about the activity later. So, your 5 minutes begins now. There are only 15 seconds remaining, miners. 15 seconds. Oh, now we're down to 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tools down. Mining permit is over. I wonder if it was easy or if it was difficult to remove the chocolate chips from your cookie. Hands up if you felt like it was easy. Hands up if you felt it was difficult. Hands up if you're somewhere in between there. Okay. I wonder what has happened to the land and the river around the chocolate chips that you were mining. Put your hand up if your land and your river are pretty intact. Put your hand up if your river and your land are looking very much destroyed. Hands up if it's somewhere in between. And now finally, hands up if you have now eaten your river and your land. I wonder, when you were mining, did you try to minimize the damage to the land and river? Hands up if that was your goal. Hands up if you were mostly focused on getting as many chocolate chips out of the cookie as you possibly could. If, now looking at your place, if there's any cookie left, and when we're done, if the adults around you say you can eat the cookie, but not quite yet. When you look around at all those part chocolate chips and pieces of cookie, what if they represent the pollution and the waste from your mining? What impact would that have on the food and water supply for the community that uses this land? So chat together just for a few minutes. And I'm going to call you back here. So, I've been lucky to spend some time learning from Heather White and reading some resources to better understand what EDIS is up to in El Salvador. And I've learned that there is one river system, the Rio Lempa, that provides water to about half of the population. That river system provides water to half of the population. And that's the water for drinking and fishing, for farming. It's the water for rural communities and for the cities. In 2004, the United Church learned from our partner organization, EDIS, that a Canadian mining company was looking to mine for gold, not chocolate chips, but gold, in areas that would impact the river. Not only would there be mining on the watershed, but toxic cyanide would be used to separate the gold from the rock and also impact that system. So today, Heather and Ever are going to share about how they have become connected together through the work of EDIS to protect the water in El Salvador, work that continues today. And for any young ones, if you, while you're listening after our song, if you would like to color, there is a banner at the back that says "Water is Life," and Meryl and Colleen will be back there, and we're going to color quietly and listen, or there are sheets at your table as well. So if you need something to do with your hands while you listen, those are there. So we'll sing like a healing stream, and I invite Heather and Ever up to share with us after the song.
Hi there. Are you all up on high from having those sweet, sweet cookies? Yeah, nice pick-me-up. Well, thank you for coming today, and I'm excited to share with you a little bit about my connection to El Salvador. I'm thrilled to have Edra here from Ave, and I'm also kind of thrilled. This translator is also, she's part of a program that I'm a part of, so we're both climate smart soil scholars at the university. So it's extra fun to be here today together. So what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, I'm kind of like the pre-show to the real show. What I'm going to talk to you about is my involvement. How is it that I'm connected to El Salvador and to Edver? And how is it that the United Church is connected to the organization called ADES? So this will just be a really sneak preview. For a more in-depth look at those relationships, I attend here at MANA, so perhaps we can have a conversation sometime. But also there is, at the Lunch and Learn, we'll be getting a little bit more in-depth into what those relationships look like. So, broadly speaking, in 2004, when I was just a wee lass, 2004-2005, I served the United Church of Canada as an overseas personnel in El Salvador with the organization that Edver now works for. We've mentioned it before. It's the Association of Social and Economic Development, Ave Santa Marta. The Santa Marta part is because Santa Marta is a community that was formed as people who were from that region who had needed to flee during the Civil War came back and resettled the community of Santa Marta. And so that's the beginnings of that organization. And at that time, when the people from the refugee communities in Honduras were returning to Santa Marta area and various other areas, there were people there from the United Church accompanying those folks. So the relationship spans back to those years in the 80s and 90s when Ades was born. So, well, I was in, the map there, that just shows you where El Salvador is, if you weren't aware. It's a very, very small country. I meant to do this before I left, but if you could imagine, I'm pretty sure Edver, in his time in Canada, has been up to Ottawa and all the way down to here in Guelph, and he's going to London. And I'm pretty sure that stretch of land is larger than the stretch of land of El Salvador. So just to get a sense of the scale of how big the country is, I think is important to have in your mind as we talk about the types of mining projects that are proposed to be in the River Lempa watershed. So when I was in El Salvador, Ades was just starting to notice the reintroduction of mining interests in their country from a period before, and they said, "Oh, excellent, you have a degree in environmental science. You can review the environmental impact assessment that has been created and tell us what it means." So that was my job, and so I worked for a while and created some connections there that connected Ades to some actual people with expertise. But in the meantime, we were involved with building capacity for people to understand, what does this mine mean? What will it mean for our water sourcage, our water quantities? What are the questions that we need to be asking of the mining community based on what they're telling us and based on what we've heard from our neighbors in Honduras, from our neighbors in Guatemala? Much of that work that Ades went on to do after my departure is captured in a book that's called Water Defenders. It is here in this library. I don't have the copy of my book with me, but it is captured there if you're interested, because what went on happening is there eventually became a ban of metallic mining in El Salvador because a majority of the people thought, this does not seem like the type of project that will bring the type of development that we want in our country. So that happened in about 2018 or so. Fast forward, last year, 5 prominent water defenders were put into jail for politically motivated reasons. One of the people put into jail is someone that I worked with in 2004 and 2005. He's the executive director of Ades, and he is somebody that Ever would be the executive director of where he is working as well. So last October, I was invited to be part of an international fact-finding mission by the United Church of Canada and the group of international interested people to explore the connection between the incarceration of the 5 water defenders and the desire of the present government to reverse the ban on metallic mining. And so I said yes, and went and heard various stories of what is happening in El Salvador on the ground from the perspective of the Santa Marta community, and the chill that organization has felt when 5 of their leaders were put into jail on very suspicious charges that are they're not very well founded, there's not a lot of proof, but regardless, it has sent a very effective chill amongst people to want to speak out and exercise their political rights. So here we are today with Edward. He has been in Canada, as Pam said, as part of an international week of action to call on the Salvadoran government to drop the charges ahead of the October 8th trial against the five water defenders, known internationally as the Santa Marta Five. These actions, facilitated by personnel at the United Church of Canada's head office that would be supported by mission and service donations, he has been meeting with MPs with portfolios in human rights, international development, and foreign affairs. This is so that as our Canadian lawmakers are observing what is happening in terms of foreign investment, a lot of the mines in El Salvador are Canadian-based, so it matters to us. And Canada was also part of the signing of the peace accords back in 92, and the charges against these Santa Marta Five are directly against those internationally brokered agreements, so it's of concern to a Canadian government. Edward will also be meeting with academics in 3 different universities, with multiple congregations like ourselves, and members of the Canadian Salvadoran Association in Toronto. So that is a little bit of me, a little bit of background, a little bit of context as to why it is that we have the privilege of having Edward here today. I'm very excited for him to share with us because El Salvador is a very small country, and so it's good to know what our neighbors are up to globally. And so how I think we're going to structure this, and it might be a little bit fluid, I just met Edward this morning, so what we've planned is I have a series of questions that are very big picture that I'm going to be asking Edward about, and then if they're the wrong question, he's been instructed to just answer the way that I should have asked the question. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah. Okay, Edward, tell us about you. How did you get to be working at ADES?
Ok, buenos días a todas y todos.
Good morning, everyone.
Mi trabajo en ADES básicamente inicia por la defensa del agua.
My work with ADES basically just starts with the defense of water.
Tengo cerca de 17 años, muy joven, de integrar movimientos organizados en El Salvador.
When I was really young, just 17, being a part of community organizations.
Pero ciertamente en mi país hay una necesidad muy grande y es el acceso al agua.
But there's also a big need in my country that I was called to, which was a scarcity of water.
Las normas de salud a nivel internacional establecen que
international norms about the amount of water that should be available to people.
Que una persona en momentos de emergencia tiene que tener acceso a 50 litros de agua al día.
So a person in a situation of emergency should have access to 50 liters of water a day.
Pero muchas mujeres, muchas comunidades, muchos niños y niñas no tienen ni tan siquiera 25, 30 litros de agua al día.
But many communities, many women and children, they don't even have access to 25 to 30 liters of water a day.
Y eso lógicamente obliga a personas como yo y como todo mundo a organizarse en torno a la lucha por el acceso al agua.
And this brings us to a logical point as humans to really fight for those rights to the access of water.
Básicamente así inicia mi trabajo o mi integración a ADES, que es una ONG surgida en tiempos de la guerra.
So that basically is how I was really called to work with ADES, and that came from after the war is how it arose, ADES.
Así como yo, hay muchas personas que no solo luchan en torno al agua en ADES.
So like me, it's not just water that we fight for with ADES.
Hay movimientos dentro de ADES que luchan por los derechos de las mujeres.
There's also, we fight for women's rights within our organization.
de la comunidad LGBTI,
¿Cuál comunidad? Oh, so also the LGBTQ community and within gender and sexual diversity rights.
y muchas personas también que están luchando por el acceso a la producción de alimentos sanos y saludables.
And also to access to safe and healthy food.
En resumen, ADES y nuestro trabajo es básicamente luchar por la vida.
So basically our organization, ADIS, is just fighting for life.
And within that work, what is your day-to-day office job? What is your title, and what does that look like when you're not talking about the Santa Marta 5? What is it that you do on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. Yo soy el coordinador de un programa que se llama Gestión Integral de Agua y Saneamiento en ADES.
So I'm the coordinator for a program within ADIS that's got. Tell me the organization. Cuéntame la organización otra vez.
ADES.
No, perdón.
Gestión Integral de Agua y Saneamiento.
Gestión.
Integral
Integral management
de agua y saneamiento.
of water and health.
Okay. Básicamente, mi profesión, yo soy trabajador social, licenciatura de trabajador social con estudios en ingeniería y arquitectura.
So basically my work is within social work, but then I have also a background in engineering and architecture.
Y algunos diplomados en temas de agua y saneamiento.
And I also have some diplomas related to water and health.
Nuestro trabajo básicamente lo que hago al día a día es tratar de llevar agua a comunidades empobrecidas y vulnerables.
So what my day-to-day often looks like is just trying to get water to vulnerable communities.
Proteger sus grandes cuencas hidrográficas
Looking at watersheds at a larger basis.
y que las personas realmente gestionen ellas su agua, sus sistemas comunitarios de agua.
And so that people can also come up with the systems within their own communities so that they have access as well.
En pocas palabras, trabajamos por garantizar el derecho humano al agua a la población.
So, in few words, we just really work for the human rights related to access of water.
Iniciamos desde identificar dónde hay agua hasta la construcción de sus sistemas, con sus tanques, sus tuberías.
So sometimes that might look like just identifying where there is a source of water, but then also helping to build the pipes and the water tanks that are necessary for people to have access.
Pero sobre todo nuestro trabajo también es de concientización.
And a lot of it also has to do with just helping with the raising consciousness about the issue as well.
Que las personas realmente sepan la importancia y el valor que tiene el agua.
So people really understand the importance and the value that water has for everything.
Que sepan que para que tengan agua en su casa hay todo un proceso ambiental importante y necesario que se debe cumplir.
So understanding that to have water come to your home, there's a whole ecological process that has to take place in order for that to everything to work.
Apoyamos en la infraestructura, pero apoyamos también en el conocimiento y el empoderamiento de las personas.
So it comes down to the infrastructure of water, but then also the consciousness around water and empowering people to participate.
A lo mejor se escucha un poco fácil, pero realmente es muy complicado todo eso.
I mean, it sounds really easy, but it's actually really, really complicated.
Hay comunidades que históricamente 50, 60 años no han tenido agua en sus hogares.
There's some communities where it's been 50 some years where they haven't had running water to their homes.
Y mediante procesos organizativos de las mismas comunidades, de las mismas personas, lo hemos logrado. Hemos llevado agua hasta sus territorios.
And so we've worked really hard within some of those communities, but it still remains a huge challenge.
Realmente no debería ser nuestro trabajo, es una responsabilidad de los gobiernos.
And really this shouldn't be our job, it really should be a responsibility of our governments.
Pero pasan 50, 60 años sin agua, no nos podemos quedar de brazos cruzados.
But 50 or 60 years pass and we can't just stand there with our arms crossed.
Ese básicamente es nuestro trabajo de manera muy general y resumido.
That's basically what our job is very generally.
Thank you. I'll just offer commentary. When I was in the delegation in October, I was staying with a family in Santa Marta community, and they did have running water, and they spoke about how they know that this is something that they're very proud of. And so maybe, Everett, could you give a sense of the work in Santa Marta where there is running water because of the work of ADES? How rare is that within Cabañas to have that type of system running in the community?
En primer lugar, para que una persona tenga agua, debe haber un nacimiento de agua. ¿De dónde extraerla?
So for a family to be able to have water in their house, there first has to be a source of water that it has to come from.
Y comúnmente esos lugares donde nace el agua están en manos privadas.
But oftentimes the source of that water is in the hands it's privately owned.
Y siendo el agua un bien tan escaso, se vuelve un poco costoso comprar esos espacios.
And so then what happens is that it becomes very expensive for families to access that water.
Ese es un punto. Otro punto para que las personas tengan agua es que tienen que tener un nivel organizativo.
Another point there for families to be able to have water in their house, there have to be a point of organization.
Comúnmente nuestras comunidades no llenan ni el primer requisito de ser dueños del nacimiento de agua.
So that would be that the families have to work in collaboration to understand who's going to be the owner of the water, and that they can't be the owners of the water individually.
Luego hay que tener mucho dinero para construir un sistema de agua.
It's a lot of money to build a water system.
Podemos hablar de más de $250,000.
It might be around $50,000 to build a water system.
Y la población no lo tiene, ni tan siquiera tiene trabajo para poder sobrevivir el día a día.
And oftentimes that money is inaccessible to families. They have their money it's really just going to everyday living.
Y si fuera
Okay.
una vía, ¿puedes decir un poco cuánta cantidad usa la agua de la vía? So I'm just asking,
Okay,
so in that context, can you talk about what type of access to water for the processing a mine would need in that context?
Okay. Una empresa minera al menos en El Salvador puede gastar de 4 a 8 millones de litros de agua al día.
So a mining company could use anywhere from 4 to 8 million liters of water a day.
Pero habíamos hablado antes que una persona no tiene ni 30 litros en su casa de agua.
But as we mentioned before, oftentimes some families don't even have 30 liters of water in their home for a day.
Y eso ya pone las cosas aún más complicadas para nuestra gente.
And that puts things even more complicated for people in this situation.
Aparte de eso, del 98% de agua, del 100% de agua que hay en el país, solo el 2% es apta para consumo humano.
And on top of that, out of just 2% of the water within El Salvador is going to be available for human consumption.
Estamos hablando de una grave situación en este caso.
We're talking about a really serious situation.
Okay. Okay.
So I just asked, because we're getting close to the end of our time, I'm asking, why is it that you think the 5 leaders of Santa Marta were put into jail? Why is the reason to think that they're politically motivated reasons for their incarceration?
En el 2017 El Salvador aprobó una ley de prohibición de minería metálica por lo antes expresado en los temas ambientales.
So in 2017, El Salvador approved a moratorium on mining.
En la actualidad seguimos amenazados por empresas mineras que están llegando al país a pesar de tener una ley.
So even though we have this law, what we're currently experiencing is still threats coming from mining companies to try to extract in El Salvador.
Hay 5 personas capturadas que son líderes de nuestra organización y son ambientalistas.
There's 5 environmental leaders from our organization that have been captured.
Esas personas empezaron a alertar del grave peligro del agua con las empresas mineras en el país.
Those are people that were struggling for the rights of water and against these mining companies.
Esas mismas 5 personas que están capturadas ahora han beneficiado a más de 10,000 personas en estos últimos 2 años con proyectos de agua en las comunidades.
And these 5 people that have been now incarcerated have helped countless people access water within their communities.
Y estas 5 personas capturadas han denunciado los riesgos que sufre nuestra población de suceder la explotación minera en mi país.
And what those 5 people have done is that they've called out the damage that those mining companies have done upon those communities.
Nuestro gobierno lo que ha hecho es capturarlos y encerrarlos en prisión para que ya no sigan hablando del tema.
And our government has incarcerated those people so that they stop talking about mining.
Lógicamente hablé que había 1.2 millones de onzas de oro en una parte del país donde vivo yo. 1.2 millones de onzas.
There's some parts in El Salvador where there's 1.2 million ounces of gold that could potentially be mined.
La onza de oro a septiembre del 2024 cuesta arriba de $2,500.
An ounce of gold was recently priced at $270 for just 1 ounce.
En pocas palabras, la captura de estos 5 líderes es porque hay fuertes intereses económicos en extraer ese oro.
And those 5 people that have been captured, there's obviously huge economic interests behind really sort of silencing those people.
Eso quiere decir de que capturando a los 5 líderes ambientalistas, lo que pretenden es limpiar el camino y poder ingresar con mayor fuerza.
So essentially what they're doing by capturing those 5 people is just cleaning the way, getting them out of the way so that the mining companies can continue.
La pregunta aquí es, ¿qué tiene más valor? ¿El oro o la vida de las personas?
And here the question is, what's more valuable,
Sí.
gold or the life of people?
Si lo vemos desde el punto humano, la vida.
And from the point of view of social of humanity, the answer is humans are more important or more valuable.
Y si lo vemos desde el punto cristiano o religioso, la vida.
And if we see it from a point of view, from a Christian point of view, then it's also human life is more valuable than gold.
Básicamente estamos en una alerta en mi país y una alerta y una emergencia por estos motivos.
We're basically on an alert, and we're in an emergency in my country.
I hate to cut it off because there's so much more to say, but I believe Ever has shared a window into the type of reality that our partners in El Salvador are facing, and the real struggles that are complicated and how to live them out. And so I invite you, if you're interested, join us afterwards. And if not, I'm going to try to find a way for you to stay in touch if you'd like to hear if there's ever a call to action that we are asked of as a United Church by ADES. I will communicate it to the leadership here at the church, and if you're interested, you can become involved. So I believe Melissa and her family have some words thanks as well.
Ever, te queremos dar muchas gracias por haber venido aquí a hablar con nosotros y estamos con ustedes. Les damos mucha fuerza y poder y estamos rezando por ustedes.
We'd also like to thank Olivia for translating. Without her, this wouldn't have been possible. The ability to share information over languages is so important, especially with so many cultures around. So thank you so much.
Just want to thank Ever and Olivia again. We do have copies of the book to borrow. Manna has a couple. You can feel free to come up to me and I can connect you. And there's an email sign-up sheet in the back if you want to have some more information. The presentation this afternoon will get much more in depth, so we hope you'll stay and have some lunch and learn some more from Ever with us. Tomorrow is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and we will be wearing our orange shirts together. On Orange Shirt Day, we remember and honor Indigenous children who were taken from their communities and families to attend residential schools. We lament that residential schools stole from these children the opportunity to grow up in a safe and loving environment, surrounded by their elders and teachings, and were stolen from communities the opportunity to live intergenerationally and pass on their culture and spirituality. And today, while we have been reflecting on water, we also lament that drinking water advisories have been a persistent injustice in many First Nations communities here in our own country. We also lament that Indigenous communities in Canada and around the world have had their health, livelihood, and cultures impacted by mining, logging, and other industries that they did not consent to. May our laments move us forward in this work towards reconciliation. Will you join me today? And we're going to close with a prayer and then our manna blessing. So let us pray. Creating God, you have asked us to live with respect for creation and to love every person as you love us. We are concerned that there are communities here and around the world who do not have access to safe water. And we're worried that there are communities whose water is at risk. We see that many people are being impacted by intense and dangerous waters like hurricanes and storms and floods this week. We are worried about climate change. We are concerned that there are people and communities like the Santa Marta Five, who face great risks when they stand up to protect water for people. We pray for healing of the waters and the earth. We pray for courageous and loving hearts to help us strive for truth, reconciliation, justice, and peace. We pray for the water defenders in El Salvador forever, for the Santa Marta Five, and for the water protectors here on Turtle Island and around the world. And we are grateful that we don't need to do